Recently, the new commander of U.S. Strategic Command, Admiral Charles Richard, testified to the Senate Armed Services Committee for the command's annual posture hearing. Here's some highlights from that testimony as he provided an update on nuclear modernization.
Earlier this week, a New York Times column summed up the budget's investment in nuclear modernization by saying, quote, "The president's spending proposal requests money for a new arms race with Russia and with China and restores nuclear weapons as central to military policy," end quote. The truth is actually the opposite of that. There's no policy change, as you stated, that relates to nuclear weapons in this budget, and it is Russia and China that are expanding their arsenals while we are not. Is that correct?
Senator, I must confess the whole concept that we're starting an arms race baffles me in terms of no nation has done more than the United States to reduce the reliance on nuclear weapons. No nation has divested more nuclear weapons than the United States has. We have waited 15 years in some cases to the absolute limits of what our systems will go before we simply sought to replace like for like inside our triad. So I don't understand where the concept of an arms race comes in, and you're absolutely correct, ma'am. But in terms of sustainment of Minuteman III, I'm not sure that it is often recognized the extraordinary levels the Air Force went to be able to accomplish that. Unlike a submarine, which is designed to have depot-level maintenance in it, the Minuteman III was not. It was designed to serve for a certain period of time and get replaced. And the Air Force went in after the fact and figured out how to take that and get a depot maintenance capability retrofitted into the weapon system that will then enable it to go till the crossover point. I think it's a great credit to the Air Force they were able to accomplish that, and that's what gives me confidence, provided no further delay in GBSD, that this will work.
Let me ask you about the Air Force's budget request and the funding cuts for the B-2 Defense Management System. Does that decision cause you any concern about the B-2's ability to operate in high-end threat environments to the end of its service life?
Senator, I think that is a great example of some of the difficult decisions that we're going to have to make and trading or balancing near-term risk for long-term risk. And so overall, the Air Force is way ahead on the bomber program, bomber roadmap, I think it's referred to. I endorse. I think that is a very thoughtful approach. In the loss of the defensive management system, we will accommodate that risk for the greater gain the Air Force is going to provide overall.
That sounds like a yes to me. That you think that there is a risk that that it will there will be some detriment to its ability to operate in high-end capacity.
There is, but I can manage it.
What else do we need to ensure that the B-2 maintains its ability to operate in those environments if this decision goes forward?
That is part of the planning that I have to do, so we will use operational mechanisms to compensate for technological abilities of the aircraft. I retain full confidence that the B-2 can do the missions that I'll ask it to do.
I want to ask about hypersonic missiles, which in your testimony you say, quote, "ensure our deterrence and conventional power remains strong in the future." Are you satisfied with the investment that we're making in hypersonic missiles, given the Russians and the Chinese investing so heavily in them? And that can be a question for both of you.
Senator, what I will start with, because there's two ways to answer, there's two aspects to your question. One is offensive use of hypersonics by us, and plus there is a defensive piece. And I remind everybody the Russians have publicly reported that they have hypersonics on alert now. And so this is a very real thing. My command has had a long-standing requirement for conventional prompt strike that hypersonic technologies would be an ideal way to go accomplish that. And I think that enables me to better deter threats to this nation. And so also, I have responsibility for global strike already inside the Department of Defense, and I think we would be an ideal command because we have concepts, command and control, ready to go to use that to best advantage.
Are you satisfied, though, that we're investing sufficiently in all of the aspects of hypersonics, both offensive and
Senator, I am. I was actually very pleased in the priority. It's in line with the National Defense Strategy in terms of the priority that this budget submission puts in that and a couple of other technical areas.
Are you concerned about a developing potential arms race in hypersonics?
Senator, no. Again, it is, do you have sufficient capability, technologies to meet our national objectives? And I think we're on pace to do that.